Today we're going to be reading the Thanksgiving story by Alice Danglish, and these are our characters.
Francis,
Mary,
Rose,
Remember,
Catherine, Christopher,
Miley,
William, Somerset,
Squanto.
Chief Master.
It was a summer day in England. Giles, Constance, and Damaris Hopkins are on their way to America. As they waited with their father and mother on the ship, they could see a great deal going on around them. They were in the harbor of the town of Southampton. Many ships were in the harbor, and 2 of them were taking on food and water, and all the things needed by the people going to a new country. Load your ship. Come load your ship. The larger ship was the Mayflower. The smaller one was the Speedwell. Men, women, and children were on the ships with their bundles and boxes. To the children, it was a great adventure. Anything might happen on the ship. I think that's enough fish. Something special would happen to the Hopkins family on the long voyage. The passengers on the Mayflower and the Speedwell were of many different kinds. All of them were settlers, going to settle or make homes in a new land. Some of them were the people that we call pilgrims. A pilgrim is a person who travels to a far-off place because of his religion. In England at that time, everyone had to go to the same church. The pilgrims wanted to be free to have their own church, to worship God in their own way. So they had left England and gone to live in Holland. Now they had come back from Holland to sail for America. Some of the people on the ship were servants, and a few were hired workmen. Now the time had come for the ships to start on their great adventure. The children would have liked to have been on deck to see the land they sailed away from it. But the sailors were very busy. The captain gave orders to the passengers to, you say, stay below.
Stay below
Until the ships are on the harbor.
The ships are on the harbor.
Only the sailors could be on deck while the sails were being set. How crowded it was below decks. Is it crowded?
Yes.
Passengers had small mattresses on the floor, each close to the next one. In their cabins, Giles, Constance, and Damaris listened. They heard the rattle of the chain as the anchor was raised, and the sailors sing, ho, ho, heave, ho.
Ho, ho, heave, ho.
They heard the creak of the ropes as the sailors worked with the sails. The big white sails would fill with wind and move the ship across the ocean. Soon the captain of the Speedwell put out signal flags to tell the other ship the Speedwell was in trouble. She was leaking and could not go. So both ships sailed back to land, and some of the passengers from the Speedwell stayed in England. Some went to the Mayflower. There were 102 passengers on the small ship, and many of them were children. This time the Mayflower sailed from Plymouth Harbor in England in September of 1620. Out on the wide ocean went the little ship. Now she was all alone. Soon even the seagulls that followed had flown back to shore. Many were seasick.
Oh.
Others were sick because they didn't have fresh fruit and vegetables to eat. Most days they ate hard biscuits. Do y'all have any hard biscuits in there?
Yep.
Or y'all can snack on those.
Oh, crackers.
Or dried meat. A few times a week they could make charcoal fire on a sand place in an iron box and sit around to keep warm. Pretend like you're keeping warm and eating your hardtack.
We haven't opened it yet.
Then they cooked a big pot of porridge or soup or stew. Y'all can eat your stew in your bowls if you've got some handy. Nothing felt so good as the warm food in the stomach. Warm days, sunny days, gray days, rainy days. Then came a big storm, and the waves beat against the ship, and everyone was afraid. Perhaps they would have liked to have gone back to England. After the storm, the sea grew calm, and the pilgrims gave thanks to God. A baby was born to the Hopkins family, and they named him Oceanus. Good job. The Mayflower sailed on and on. The days and nights grew colder. There was plenty of time to talk about Virginia, the part of America where they were going. It would be warm there with sunshine and flowers and green trees. 2 months went by and everyone was tired. No one was very clean and there was no fresh water to wash in. At last one day a sailor called, "Land ho."
Land ho.
No, land ho.
Land ho!
What a hurrying and scurrying up on deck there was as passengers tried to see the shore. As the ship came near, they could see evergreen trees growing near the water. It was not warm Virginia with sunshine and flowers. It was Cape Cod, and it was winter. And there were no friends to welcome the pilgrims, no houses to live in. But they had come to land, and so they knelt and thanked God for bringing them safely to the new country. A pilgrim gathered the passengers together and said, "Let's make a written law for ourselves."
Let's make a written law for ourselves.
After they were done, Miles Standish, perhaps, read out loud the Mayflower Compact. Oh, sorry.
When the pilgrims left England, in the name of God, amen. We whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our dread sovereign, Lord King James, by the grace of God of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, King, Defender of the Faith, etc. Having undertaken, for the glory of God and advancement of Christian faith and honor of our King and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia. Do by these presents, solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one another, covenant and combine ourselves together in the civil body politic, for our better ordering and preservation and furtherance of the ends aforesaid, by the virtue hereof to enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws and offices from time to time as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience. In witness thereof, we have hereafter subscribed our names to the Cape Cod, the 11th of November, in the year of our sovereign King, Lord King James of England, France, and Ireland, the 18th of Scotland, and the 54th Anni Domini 1620.
Everyone would have liked to go on shore and walk on the good, firm ground. The women could hardly wait to wash all the dirty clothes. But first, some of the men went to see if it was safe. There would be Indians. The settlers had heard all kinds of stories about Indians, so the men carried their guns. They would not shoot except to protect themselves. One of the men who went ashore was Miles Standish. He was a soldier, and he had been training some of the men to use guns.
Hold it like this.
On the Mayflower, Giles, Constance, and Damaris waited and waited for their father to come back. Oceanus slept and slept, as babies do. The men waded through ice-cold water. They walked along the shore, and there seemed to be nothing but sand, sand and more sand. They cut some sweet-smelling branches of juniper, a kind of evergreen, and took them back to the ship. That night, the settlers had a warm wood fire. Okay, you can take it back now. Some of the women and children on the Mayflower went ashore. And as soon as they could, they had a wash day. We gotta have something to wash. Here. Y'all can share that.
Mm.
There you go.
Share, please.
There was a pond of fresh water near the beach. It was good to have clean, fresh clothes again. They smelled them to see if they were clean. Meanwhile, other men went looking for corn. Do we have corn somewhere? Oh, corn over there.
Look behind those bushes.
Look behind the bushes. Oh, okay. They had heard about it from others who had been to this new land. They would trade with the Indians for seeds to plant. If they could not find corn, everyone might die of hunger. The seeds they had brought from England might not grow. They looked and looked. Once they saw some Indians and a skinny dog. Somebody pop up. Samoset, show your face. Okay, disappear with your skinny dog.
Mm.
They kept on looking. No corn, but an old kettle half buried in the sand. A ship's kettle. How did it come there? No corn, but small hills of sand. The men dug down into one, and there was a little old basket filled with corn. Yay! God had given them corn to plant. They found other baskets, big baskets. They filled their pockets with corn. Someday they would find the Indians and pay them for it. The second day was cold and rainy. William Bradford slipped and fell right into an Indian deer trap.
Mm.
Miles Standish and the other men rescued him out of it. That was really in the book. Gathering brush and logs, they built a barricade and slept. In the night, there was a hideous cry. Oh wait, somebody make a hideous cry from over there. No, not the Pilgrims. One of the Wampanoags. Y'all make a hideous cry like a wolf. Oh yeah, do that again. There we go. That's it. Was it a wolf? So one day, the Pilgrim ladies went back to their ship because it wasn't quite safe. One day, they did see some more Indians, and these were not friendly. They shot at the settlers with their bows and arrows. So you're just gonna have to pretend. The men shot back with their guns. Samoset, this is where you can pretend to die, but you can come back out later. All right. After the Indians had gone, the settlers picked up many arrows on the sand. And actually, nobody died. We just pretended that they did. So it pleased God to save them all. The men gave thanks for their deliverance and named the place the First Encounter Beach. So nobody actually got hurt. Then the Mayflower sailed across to a place marked on the map called Plymouth. The settlers called it New Plymouth because they had sailed from Plymouth, England. It was a cold December day when some of the settlers landed. Once again, they knelt and thanked God for his care. And William Bradford said, Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth Rock.
God had directed them to a good place for homes. Indians had lived here, but all of the Palisades had died, and there were fields where corn had grown. God led them to a place where there was rich black earth for planting and plenty of fresh water. The winter was not a cold one, but it seemed long to the settlers. Many of them were sick. Y'all can get back off again because you're in Plymouth. Say, we are here on Plymouth Rock, William Bradford.
We are here on Plymouth Rock.
Many of them died. Not all of them, but many of them. All right. Some people stayed on the ship and others went to shore to work. They took with them some boards they had brought on the ship and cut down some trees. First, they built a house to hold food. Right. You can set it over in the corner. Or leave it there. That's good. Just leave it there. That's good. All right, now bring the house out. Y'all make the house. Bring the house out in front of this thing. So you can be behind it. Yeah. Now pretend like you're hammering on it and working on it.
Hey, you're not
Some of the sick people stayed in this house. There were 2 smaller houses. One was used to keep supplies and one for sick people. Some girls went to find and found some nuts. You know where the nuts are, girls? Over there. And brought them home. The men on shore, the men who were well enough to work shivered in the wind and snow as others cared for the sick. With a great deal of hard work, they built 7 small houses. Half the people died that winter of sickness and hunger. They had to bury their dead at night so the Indians wouldn't see. But at last, spring came. There were new leaves on the trees. Say, look, there's a new leaf.
It's green.
Birds sang in the trees. The country was no longer cold and wintry and bare, but green, friendly, and beautiful. Almost everyone was weak and thin, but there had been so much sickness and not enough to eat. But weather for planting seeds was coming. Out in the spring sunshine, ever since they landed, the settlers had been finding new trees to plant. They found many trees and flowers they had known in England. They told each other about them as if they were meeting old friends. Here are oaks. Say, here's an oak.
Here's an oak.
Say, here's a walnut.
Here's a walnut.
Say, here's a birch.
Here's a birch.
An ash.
An ash.
A wild cherry.
A wild cherry.
And a plum.
Oh.
All right, Laurel, you can say, here are strawberries.
Yeah, strawberry.
And Lily, you can say, here's watercress.
Here's watercress.
In April, the Pilgrims waved goodbye to Captain Jones. Bye-bye, Captain Jones. No, that's you.
That's you.
You're leaving, ship captain.
Bye.
And going back to England. Say bye-bye, Captain Jones.
Get some food.
Now the settlers were alone. Alone, except for the Indians. Sometimes the settlers saw smoke from Indian fires. They saw Indians, too, peeping out from behind bushes. There they are. But they always ran away. One day, Samo said, one day a tall Indian walked right into the village and spoke to the settlers in English. He said, hello, I am Samoset.
Hello, I'm Samoset.
He had learned it from some of the sea captains who had come to that part of the country. The people of Plymouth were surprised to see the Indians wore so few clothes. It was still cold weather, and how could he have only that little piece of leather around his waist? So they gave him an old coat. Later, and so then he went back and talked to some people. Later, God brought another Indian named Squanto, who said, welcome, Englishman.
Welcome, Englishman.
He had been taken to England in a ship. What a miracle that God had prepared a friendly Indian who didn't have a family to speak English and to help them survive. After this, the Wampanoag Indian chief Massasoit came to visit. The people of Plymouth made a place for the chief to sit outside one of the houses they were building, and they put a cushion for him to sit on. Don't we have a cushion somewhere? No, not the gun. No, we got no, not a turkey. A cushion. There we go. The chief was painted dark red, and he wore a necklace of white beads. The settlers went to the meeting in their best clothes and with trumpets and drums. The Governor Bradford wore a red sash. Get the sash. And a feather in his hat. Just to pretend feather. I don't know. We're missing the red sash.
It's upstairs.
Okay.
It's in the box. It's the red tie. There it is.
Oh, there's his white piece.
Red sash goes for
That
in your neck.
there we go.
Red sash.
That's you. William Bradford wears a red sash. Okay. The settlers gave the Indian chief shining knives. Who has a knife? Who has a knife? And a copper chain, which we don't have. Okay. Massasoit promised to be friendly. When people came to Plymouth, they would not bring bows and arrows with them. The promise of friendship. Chief Massasoit said, "We promise to be friendly."
We promise to be friendly.
Oh, there's your chain. Yes. The promise of friendship was kept for 50 years. The friendly Indian Squanto remained in the village of Plymouth. Wait, where's Squanto? Oh, here he is. He said, so then Chief Massasoit and his other left and went home. But Squanto stayed. And Squanto said, "This is how you plant corn in the Indian way."
This is how you plant corn in the Indian way.
Yeah.
You get a fish, and you dig a hole, and you put some seeds, some corn seeds, in the hole with it, and you bury it.
That year, men, women, and children worked hard planting. And that year there was a good crop of corn. And there was food all over the place. Where's our food? Where's our food? We gotta go gather the food. Oh, we gotta gather it.
Let's go get the basket.
Gather it in your baskets. They were working hard.
I'm hot. I think I should go get water.
The governor said, let's have a special day to thank God for all he's given us.
Let's have a special day to thank God for all that He has given us.
And he said, let's have a Thanksgiving feast.
Let's have a Thanksgiving feast
And invite the
Indians,
Chief Massasoit and his
Chief
people.
Massasoit
And his people.
and his people.
So somebody went to get them. Oh, they've got to carry the deer on their shoulders. Get the deer from over there.
Deer.
Let's see, Squanto and Samoset. Carry the deer on your shoulders between you. All right, pilgrims, y'all come this way. We got to give them some room to parade in. The one bush is falling. The bushes were falling everywhere. All right. So, nice, nice. You can set it down on the table right there. Men went out into the woods to shoot deer and wild turkeys. I think I see a turkey over here.
Oh, here's a turkey. It's flying.
The women cooked and baked. The day of the Thanksgiving dinner was warm and pleasant. Long tables were set out of doors. Then Massasoit, the great chief, came, and the settlers must have counted the long line of Indians that followed him. 1, 2, 20, 40, 50, 60. Yes, there were 90. And Massasoit and his men had done their share and brought deer for the feast. Elder Brewster, the minister, said a prayer, giving thanks to God for homes and food and safety in the new land. After the feast, so then they sat down to eat. After the feast, the settlers put all their food back in the basket. And they played games. And the Indians danced. There we go. Miles Standish brought out his soldiers, and they drilled as the Indians watched. The Indians stayed for 3 days. The Pilgrims did not forget the hard times. They knew there would be difficult times to come. Still, they felt they had many things to be thankful for. They had food and houses and warm fires. The Indians were their friends. They were free in this new land, free to work, to make their homes, to worship God in their own way. Perhaps they sang the hymn they had brought to the new world with them. Praise God from whom all blessings